Mayor Aaron really needs to open some of these older figures up and review them. What is this? Okay, I don't know what to make of this. Well, this is a bit suspicious. What is it? Alexa Bliss Basic Series 104. This can't be real. Mayor Aaron told me I was a one-of-a-kind co-mayor Alexa figure. This must be a custom of me.
Mayor Aaron has been lying to you. It turns out that after 5 years, he has been able to keep this terrible truth from the person he calls his co-mayor.
Who are you and what are you doing in Mayor Aaron's closet, you flipping weirdo?
Me? Well, I'm Doink, the wrestling figure clown. And I'm here because I'm hungry, co-mayor Alexa. I'm hungry for fear and for sorrow. And this town without men's wrestling figures is full of it.
Yeah, that's dramatic AF. I think I'll leave now. This figure is just a co-mayor Alexa custom you made. Nice try, clown.
Oh, poor little naive co-mayor Alexa. If you don't believe that it's real, why don't you go ahead and open it up? Take a look for yourself.
I think I'll pass.
What? Are you afraid? Afraid to see that the figure's a mass-produced Alexa Bliss and not a co-mayor Alexa figure?
Open me up. Open me. I'm the same as you. Ah.
Open it. Open it up! Open it!
What the frick? Go ahead, Alexa Bliss. Open it up. See how real we are. So it's true there's more than one of me. I'm just an Alexa Bliss basic figure. I'm no co-mayor Alexa figure.
Alexa, I will show you the truth behind all the lies Mayor Aaron has spread to you over the years. In fact, I have a place for you to stay to get your mind right. Take my hand.
I can't believe Mayor Aaron has been lying to me all these years. I'm coming with you. You need to show me the truth that has been hidden for all these years.
That's such a good girl, co-mayor Alexa. Or should I just say, Alexa?
Who's ready for TIFFY time in LumberJillville? What the? What is this?
Mayor Aaron, it has been brought to my attention that you have been lying to me since the beginning of LumberJillville. I'm not a co-mayor Alexa figure as you claimed. I am in fact just another Alexa Bliss figure. I never expected to get more honesty out of a clown than you. I'm leaving and never coming back. I deserve my own YouTube channel where I review men's figures just to spite you. Goodbye, Alexa.
Why wouldn't she sign it co-mayor? And also, is she talking about the same clown that Secretary Stasay said she saw? I don't know. Things are just getting too weird in LumberJillville, but the show must go on. I don't know. I don't know what's going on here in LumberJillville. It's not even October yet. Boy. But you know what? We're going to worry about that later because I'm really excited for today's figure review. So freaking excited for this new Tiffany Stratton Elite Series 113. Now, before we get started, I just want to say welcome. Welcome into LumberJillville. Women's wrestling lives here. To get a first look at all future women's wrestling figure reviews, make sure to hit subscribe and become an official resident of LJV today. Now, this Tiffany Stratton Elite, I have to say there's a lot of little things about it that are very important to cover that I'm going to get into later in the review. I ordered 3 of them, and 2 of them in their face scans, they're kind of cross-eyed, right? But the one we're going to open up and review looks pretty darn good. But either way, I'm super excited for this Elite. It's been a long time coming. I had the Tiffany Stratton Basic. It just didn't really do it for me, but this Elite looks great. So without further ado, let's take a closer look at this figure, starting with the packaging. Alright, so let's start off the packaging. Now, I've covered this on the channel extensively, but it appears every time Mattel changes the design scheme of these WWE Elite figures, it appears that the cardboard gets thinner and thinner and cheaper, and yeah, it's no exception here. You know, I've talked about since they've made the change to this design, the cardboard is so flimsy. I ordered 3, and one of them was completely beat to crap, and I'll show you that in a little bit here. The other 2 could pass as MOC, but obviously here in LumberJillville, I do open the figure up to review it. Now, I will keep one MOC because it does have a good aesthetic. It looks good MOC. It's just the overall thinness and quality of the cardboard. It's wild how thin it is. I mean, if you blow hard enough in the direction of this box, it'd probably just crumble, right? So yeah, that's my biggest gripe, but we'll put that behind us here because the design of it does look good. I love this newer style Elite packaging here. We have an image of the stunning and talented Tiffany Stratton there with the series number, her name. And we have, I was going to say a nice open window. We don't have a nice open window. We have a nice 3/4 of a window here. And obviously it does cut off the boots. It's kind of the design they've went the last few Elite series. And honestly, it doesn't bother me too much. I think it would bother me if I took this figure to get signed by Tiffany and her signature covered up the figure, right? So I do miss the old open style bubble where we can really see the whole figure. But I get that this is probably more environmental friendly. I don't know, but yeah. Either way, it is what it is. The figure here does look excellent. There's a lot of sculpted detail I can see. We get a pair of extra hands. We get that cowboy hat. And we have the Barbie-inspired gear. How awesome is that, y'all? And on the side, we have an image of Tiffany. Other side, we have her name. And on the back, we have a little blurb. It says, "It's Tiffy time whenever the center of the universe steps inside the ring to put on her incredible athleticism on display. Career highlights, NXT Women's Champion." And let's talk about that. Yeah, this night that this attire is from, as you can see in the picture, she comes out with a cowboy hat. And hey, what's this? She comes with the NXT Women's Championship. Say, when I look at the figure, I don't see that NXT Women's Championship. Why wouldn't they include the NXT Women's Championship? I don't understand. And I get if you break it down, oh, well, they had to put a lot of tooling into her sculpt and her attire and also the hat. I don't care. We've seen plenty of men's wrestling figures with tons of sculpted detail, with tons of extra accessories. This figure needed that NXT Women's Championship. You know, the same one that we got that with that Roxanne Perez Elite. And I do have an extra one that I am going to add to this figure on display because it needs that belt. It needs that title. And I think that's a shame. And I think it's kind of funny that on the back of the package they show an image from that night. And look at her. She looks great. But she's got that championship around her waist. And we just don't get that championship with the figure. And that's a letdown here. Let's see here on the side. We got her height, we have where she's from, and then we have her finisher, the prettiest moonsault ever. She does have an awesome moonsault. It's one of my favorites up there with Charlotte and actually Lacey Evans, but she has a great moonsault. Now, yeah, besides my gripe of not coming with the title, let's open this figure up and see how it looks up close. WWE Elite Series 113 Tiffany Stratton. This attire is from the 2023 Great American Bash event, which took place on July 30th from Texas. On this night, Tiffany would defeat Thea Hale to retain the NXT Women's Championship. Alright, so my overall first impressions, I mean, this figure is awesome. I love when there's a women's wrestling figure that comes out that just really pops and stands out amongst all the women's wrestling figures in my collection, and this definitely does that. She's in her Barbie-inspired gear, and it looks great. I know I just talked about it, but I really do wish she came with that white NXT Women's Championship. It would look beautiful on this figure, and I can't wait to display it with this title. We'll do that later. But the figure itself, I'm just going to get this out of the way. The one thing, when I took her out of the package, and she's on display stand for a reason, is her right foot is pointed down. Now, I have tried off camera to get it back into position, and I'm afraid I'm going to snap it off. So I am going to heat it up with some boiling water and see if I can adjust that back into position. But her foot is like stuck. And that's the problem with the new style packaging, is I didn't see that. I would not have reviewed this figure if I knew the foot was stuck in that position, right? So that's the problem with the Elite packaging covering up the legs. You don't know if there's like a wonky foot or something. So we will fix that. You know, like I said, off camera, I'll boil some water and try to fix that, and we'll regroup here. But overall, I think it looks like a really awesome figure. The face does look a lot better in person. However, as I mentioned before, and we'll get to that in the next segment, you almost want to find this figure in stores, because I've seen this figure online, people that got theirs that are cross-eyed. I have one of mine is cross-eyed, so this scan is printed on nice. Now, as far as the accessories here, we have this cowboy hat, which I thought was just white, which would have been inaccurate, but it's actually like a metallic silver type color with a bunch of studs on it, and it looks good. It works, you know, it's close enough to what she wore that night, and I think it's a really beautiful accessory. I think it looks really, really cool, so I love that cowboy hat. I love how it fits on her. She comes with grasping hands. She also comes with these open hands here. So I'm not sure what I'm going to display her with as far as hands go. But yeah, this figure, it is awesome. I mean, I'm smiling ear to ear, mostly because my daughter loved Barbies at one point in her young childhood. And, you know, I used to get Barbies for her. So to have a women's wrestling figure in Barbie attire, I mean, this might be my daughter's new favorite women's wrestling figure, but it's up there for me too, because it looks awesome. Now, that being said, let's get these accessories off, and let's take a closer look at that face sculpt, face scan, and hair sculpt. Alright, so as far as the face sculpt, face scan, and hair sculpt goes, well, okay, the hair sculpt's great, right? I think it's really cool. Once again, I would have liked if they added a darker color to kind of the root there, somehow to make it look more realistic, but I think it looks fine here. I think it works just fine. And I really do like the sculpt. I love that the sculpt has curls, sculpted beautifully throughout. Even on the back, it looks really good. Now let's talk about the face. Do I think the face is an absolute disaster? No, not at all. But I don't think it really looks like Tiffany, honestly, and I think it's the face shape that's a little bit off. Also, I think the nose might be a little bit off as far as what her nose actually looks like. Like, look to the side here. So here's an image from the package. Let's zoom out a little bit. And you can see that it really doesn't resemble Tiffany all that well. Maybe through the eyes, but that's about it, right? So that's kind of disappointing that her first Elite does not really capture her likeness. Now, as I mentioned, is it a complete train wreck? No, especially this one. This one looks good. I do have another one that has cross eyes, and that's something you really have to look for if you're looking for this figure. And honestly, I would advise that you wait till it hits the shelves, or maybe get one off eBay where you can zoom in and look at the face scan, because, as I mentioned, out of the 3 Tiffany's I got from Ringside, 2 of them are a little bit off, and one of them is completely cross-eyed, so you almost don't want to take that risk. You want to be able to look at it in hand and make sure it's scanned on correctly, because this scan is printed on correctly, and yeah, it looks okay. Like I said, it's not completely terrible or anything, but it really doesn't resemble Tiffany, in my opinion, and I do think it comes down to the sculpt. I think there's some features on the sculpt that really don't capture the shape of her face, and I think that's where it's kind of off here. But at least the smile, what's cool about it is we get to see some teeth. We don't see a whole lot of smiling sculpts where we see the teeth and it's printed on cleanly. And that looks pretty good here. So yeah, as far as the face goes, I do think it falls a little short. I don't think it's terrible, but I definitely don't think it's all that great. I just wanted to quickly show you one of my Tiffany's here, the one I didn't open, that the eyes are a bit cross-eyed, and that's unfortunate. So moving on down to the body sculpt and the attire, I hate to say it, but they gave her the same treatment that they've given Bianca Belair on every one of Bianca's figures, and that's that the torso just doesn't work. Now I say that because Tiffany and Bianca alike are very strong. They have great muscular physiques, and we just don't get that here. So I think there's a lot of great sculpted detail. I think the leg part choices look great. I think the arms look great. But that midsection, that torso, is way too dainty, way too small, and it's, like I said, kind of the same thing they're doing with Bianca. And I do have that WrestleMania Bianca Elite, so we'll see if they made any improvements there, but that'll be a different review. So overall, I think there's a lot of sculpting here that is beautifully done. I love the part choices of the arms and the legs, as I mentioned. But I do think that midsection is a little underwhelming considering Tiffany has a great muscular physique. And I think the basic actually captures the physique a little bit better. And we'll take a look at that figure next. But yeah, moving on to the good, there's a lot of sculpted detail in the attire of Tiffany. And I think that's what really stands out here. So we have up around her neck, part of her top there, it's sculpted on. It's got little intricate paint, silver shiny stars, little diamond studs painted on there in silver all around with the pink. The straps are sculpted on. The top is a uniquely sculpted top just for her. And she has a unique chest sculpt, which I think it's cool whenever they do that with the women's wrestling figures. They kind of give them a unique chest sculpt and shape. And they've done that before with like a Mandy Rose, for example. And I just think that's cool. I think these women deserve to have their own unique parts and shapes, and I think that's great. So I do think that's cool that we do have a new chest sculpt there. And the top has a lot of intricate sculpting that you really can't tell unless you get up close. The stars are even sculpted on, for example. And there's so much intricate paintwork on the top, and it really does stand out. It looks great. Even on the back, these straps going across her back are sculpted on with little silver studs, even sculpted. If you move your nail across it, you can kind of go over it like speed bumps there. It looks cool. A lot of sculpting here, beautiful paint. We have an armband on her left arm that is pink with little silver studs. We have wristbands painted on here. Let's try to get a better look there. That are white with silver accents with pink trim and that little silver star. The bottoms are just painted on here, but there's a lot of really neat paint application, as you can see here, with silver studs on the waistband, the stars, the little seam in the front. Backside, we got 2 stars on the backside there. Once again, we have some pink. We have these lines painted on her legs to simulate her gear in pink with little silver studs. Once again, the paint application is very clean. It looks really good. These dots don't look sloppy by any means. The knee pads are not that stretchy material I love. They're a harder type plastic. And it is missing some detail if you look at her knee pads from that night. But at least they got the sculpting right. The sculpting looks like how they looked. But they didn't really put the intricate paint into the knee pads that they did with the top and even the bottoms. And I think that would have really completed this look in my opinion. So it's a little disappointing there that they just made them white with the pink triangle when really there was some intricate paint going on in real life. And then the boots here are plain white, but we have pink stars all over, and that looks really, really cool. So as far as the body sculpt and attire goes, I think they do a good job. I think where they miss the mark is that torso, that midsection, the lack of detail on the knee pads, and that's about it because the rest of it is pretty tremendous. All right, now it's comparison time. So on the left, we have Basic Series 145, and obviously on the right, we have that Elite Series 113 that we're reviewing today. These are Tiffany's only figures released by Mattel as of this recording. This Basic on the left was her debut figure, and it is okay, right? There's something definitely off about the face on the figure, but it's debatable that this might have a better likeness than the Elite that we're looking at today. But as I mentioned earlier in the video, I do think they got her physique right. I think that the body part choices they used on this Basic look really good. I think it really does give her muscular physique a lot better than that Elite does, at least in the midsection to torso. And even though there's not a whole lot of sculpting going on, they did a pretty good job here with the paint application, simulating her attire, and it looks okay. But I think that's just a fine debut figure. It's not that great, but I think it's just fine. Obviously, today's Elite really does stand out more, especially on the shelves. And I don't think anyone's going to see this figure. Even though the likeness isn't spot on, I don't think anyone's going to see it on your shelf and be like, who's this? They're going to know it's Tiffany right away just because of that extravagant attire. Now, I want to zoom in on the faces so we can kind of see side by side what they look like. And as you can see, they look like two completely different people. And yeah, you'll have to let me know in the comments which face sculpt and scan you think is better, but in my opinion, neither of them really capture her likeness. She's very beautiful and unique in her own way, and we just don't have that captured in figure form yet. Now, she's only had these two figures, so hopefully in the future, if we get more Tiffany's, they nail her likeness. But as far as these two go, I'd probably go with the Elite. I think that the Elite captures her likeness a little bit better. I think this one on the left, I don't even know who that is, right? It doesn't really look like Tiffany, so you have to let me know in the comments which one you like better, but either way, I really do think if you're looking to add a Tiffany to your collection, it's a no-brainer. You gotta go with that Elite, just because the attire is so awesome. It's cool that we get the cowboy hat accessory, and as I'll show you next, you can make this figure even look cooler on display. Now, if you have an extra Elite Series 106 Roxanne Perez, I would definitely put that NXT Women's Championship on display with this Tiffany figure because it adds so much to the figure. And this is how she looked on her entrance on that night with the title around her waist, the cowboy hat, and this attire. And it really completes the look. It is very baffling that we didn't get the title included with this Elite. I think that's a big miss for Mattel, especially because the image on the back of the package shows her wearing that title. So that's a huge disappointment, but luckily I have a few extra Roxannes. Love that figure, love Roxanne. So I am going to include this title with this figure on display. It looks awesome. It really does look amazing. And I think out of all my figures, besides that Zelina, I'm looking over right now, besides that Zelina Vega LWO Elite, I think this one is going to stand out more than any of them, because it just looks amazing. I love the pink, I love the white, I love the cowboy hat, and even though the face sculpt and scan isn't exactly spot on, at least it looks manageable, right? It looks like a beautiful woman, it just doesn't really look too much like Tiffany. But this figure pops, it looks amazing, and yeah, it's so much fun. But adding this NXT Women's Championship is an absolute must, in my opinion. So overall, I give WWE Elite Series 113 Tiffany Stratton an overall score of an 8 out of 10. Now, there are a lot of good things with this figure, and there are a few head-scratching decisions made by Mattel that's very frustrating with this figure, and we'll get to. So the good, the one thing I didn't mention is the skin tone is awesome. She's nice and tan, pretty dang accurate. Another good is the attire looks amazing. I can't say enough good about how the attire pops. Not just the sculpting of the top, but the paint application looks excellent. I love that she comes with the cowboy hat. Looks really cool. Now the bad. The torso choice is a head scratcher. The midsection is way too tiny. And as I mentioned, it's the same thing that they make a mistake on with Bianca's figures time after time after time. Like, why don't they have a more muscular torso? Hopefully Jade will get one. It looks like it in the pictures, but Tiffany and Bianca deserve that too, honestly, so that's frustrating. Another thing is, why didn't we get the NXT Women's Championship with this figure? It belongs with this figure. It looks awesome displayed with it. And I'm definitely using an extra one for my Roxanne Perez, an extra Roxanne Elite, and putting it on this figure because it looks incomplete without that title around her waist, in my opinion. And another thing that brings the score down a little bit is the face. As I mentioned, a lot of the scans that were printed on, unfortunately, were very cross-eyed, and even mine, where the scan's printed on correctly, still doesn't really resemble Tiffany. It doesn't capture her likeness hardly at all, in my opinion. So those are the things that really do bring this figure score down. However, the reason it's a lot lower than an 8 is if you put this figure on display, it really pops, it stands out, and everyone's gonna know it's Tiffany just based off of the attire alone. Thanks for stopping by LumberJillville. Women's wrestling lives here. To get a first look at all future women's wrestling figure reviews, make sure to hit subscribe and become an official resident of LJV today. Also, head on over to ringsidecollectibles.com and use coupon code LJV at checkout to save 10% on your next order of women's wrestling figures. Now stay tuned. I have tons of women's wrestling figure reviews coming out to LumberJillville in the near future, including the WrestleMania Elite Bianca Belair, and also the Elite Greatest Hits Natty, both the regular and the Chase version. So those will be posted very soon. Thanks for watching, and have a great night, y'all.